Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Digital Leadership. My name is Bernard. Today I'm going to discuss some of the important happenings around the IT staffing and the consulting industry with one of the leaders. This is Mr. Calvin.joel. He's been around for almost 18 years in this. Hi Calvin, welcome to this.
Thank you, Bernard, for the introduction.
So can you just give me a small intro about what you've been doing and what you're doing? And I know, of course, now with COVID, so you're mostly working from home.
Yes.
So give a kind of a small.
So, I started my career in the staffing and consulting, industry. Overall, I have about 18 years of experience. I've been always, selling and working with customers around this space.
Okay.
So it's about 18 years now, and I work with one of the largest private sector employers in India, which also does consulting practice here for many of our customers here.
Okay.
So yeah, great to be here.
Before this the COVID thing, already the markets were down. So now, for example, a startup or an IT consulting, what they're doing recently for the last 2-3 years, what are your advice? What they should do after this COVID? For example, if it gets over another month or two, what are your real strategy or advice for the startups in the IT consulting industry?
See, there are different sets of companies in India. I think if you see the IT consulting companies, when I say the IT consulting companies, there are a lot of IT companies in India which are predominantly dependent on the Indian consumers. When I say Indian consumers, for them these are the global captive centers. We call that as GICs. So there are a lot of startup and consulting companies are providing services to the GICs in India. And in this specific, situation, what I strongly believe is, a lot of countries have come up with the stimulus packages they're giving to the countries. See, Japan has stopped with about 20% of the GDP as a stimulus. America, for example, is 11.8%, but in India we are still at about less than 1%, which has come so far as a stimulus by the government to the company. So the onus
Already the government has announced a stimulus for the.
I think yes, they have announced it for the unorganized sector. It is yet to come to the organized sector.
Okay.
But I strongly feel that now the onus is on the CEOs to turn their ships around.
Oh.
So what will happen, for the companies is, of course, the large GICs. The global India captives that we speak about are conserving cash, which is a topmost priority. The second most important thing that I have seen, what is happening is, the discretionary spending will come down, which they were spending earlier. And the third thing is, there will be a lot of right sizing happening. What I mean by right sizing is, traditional companies, including your Indian IT consulting companies and your global captive companies which are based out of India, they used to have certain buffer workforce. They used to have certain amount of bench. The bench in this industry is where you'll have always people available to be readily deployed on projects. So those discretionary expenses and spending that these companies were having will all come down. So right sizing will happen. A lot of projects which are support and maintenance will take a hit. Typically what happens is when I am a startup, Indian consulting startup, and I'm trying to work with the global captive center, I will of course as a global captive center, I will of course have a lot of projects which are support and maintenance. These are projects which are part of your work package or your SOW that you will sign with a particular customer. So these buffer resources, as I would call, are people who are generally are there to maintain and support the projects. And these are the costs that is built in as part of the project. So those kind of support and maintenance projects and the workforce those are doing such projects would come down. I think BPO is supposed to be going down. I think So if you are a startup who are into the BPO space, you are going to see a lot of impact. I think that's what it is.
So if you're in IT consulting, if you're an early startup or like 2 or 3 years, I think these are the impacts going to happen in this. So if you can help me out, what are the is there anything like which are going to be better after that? Maybe after COVID, this is going to be better. Is there anything think about that? Okay, wow, so kind of a good things can happen. Any possibilities? 1 or 2 points?
Sure. So I think I'll be specific to the consulting space, which where I belong. So one good thing that I'm really looking forward is see a lot of this IT organizations. When I say IT, I'm sorry, the users of IT, which are typically your captives. Say for example, I'll take some names. For example, if you talk about Tesco, okay. Say for example, if you want to talk about Novartis, which is on the pharmaceutical space. These are all captive centers having large presence in India, right? So what will happen is all of these organizations are they have a fixed hiring budget. For example, if they have say 2,000, 3,000 people in India in one of their centers, about 60-70% will be a full-time workforce. The remaining will be a contracting workforce or maybe temporary workers, if you could call. But that mix will change. Okay. So companies will not be so stringent in terms of the mode of employment.
Okay.
They would want to again preserve cash. They wanted to make sure that they can't have any long-term expenses, in terms of employee benefits. So they will use a lot of temporary and contracting workforce and outcome-based models. So see, if you look at the consulting industry, there are 3 large delivery models. If I would say in terms where there are people involved. One is of course predominantly your staffing model. People call it as a time and material model or time and material contracts, where you provide people for a certain number of months and then you just get paid only for the people that you provide and the time that they work for.
Yeah.
The second largest thing is you have something called as outcome-based model, where you do not customers do not really ask you as to how many people you're going to use there, but then you're signing on certain SLAs and you're actually paid based on milestones.
Yeah.
So I think this particular model is going to go up. Of course, contracting would of course be good. So a lot of startups, tech startups, if they have a niche, if they have certain skills that they have, their boutique firm, where they say, for example, if you're good in Azure, or if you're good in, say, for example, Salesforce, for example, if you're good in analytics. So these are certain companies which would, be really, trying to do well.
So as per your understanding, so IT companies which are, niche in certain, particular technology, they're going to leverage this, after.
Because see, there are 2 to 3 different types of, consulting companies in India which are providing services to the captive centers in India. So the first would be, of course, your large consulting players like your IBM and Accenture. Okay. You have them. The second are the tier 2 players. We would call that as tier 2 players. Okay. These are typically mid-sized IT firms, and certain boutique firms. And then, of course, there is a lot of other firms, a pure staffing or an outcome-based model, consulting companies. Consulting companies which which offer these services. So what I feel is, because of the cost pressure that's going to come through, also to make sure that there is a lot of less discretionary spending that's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm expecting a lot of projects from tier 1 organizations to come to the tier 2 and the tier 3. So as long as the tier 2 and tier 3 companies could maintain the same service level and same quality of service that the customer is expecting them to do. So I'm seeing that as the biggest change this time.
Okay. Yeah. So you spoke about the startups and this. What about the experience of the larger companies, the giants, like in the staffing? So what do you think they're going to do, or what are your advice for them? Or can you give us a kind of heads up on what they're going to do after this COVID thing? How they
I think COVID situation is one, but I would like to not to relate certain fundamental basic things that each company, especially if you're consulting or a staffing company, that they should do irrespective of the current COVID situation. I think companies will now try to strengthen their sales engines, because I strongly believe that this is the best time for us to go all out and look for these kind of opportunities coming in from customers. And sales is a very interesting, thing, because I've been a salesperson myself. I started my career as a salesperson, and then I've led, a lot of sales teams before, and I've also been part of environment where there is a sales team which is works parallel to me. And also, and one thing I realized is that, every day, I could be a director now, but still I am selling something to my customer. When a customer is meeting me, they're expecting me to add value to them, in whatever context that I'm talking to them. So I think sales would be the biggest thing that the companies would focus on, purely because, I think, as a salesperson, I've seen that if you look at the typical Indian consulting or staffing companies, there are different types of sales teams that you could see. There are sales teams which are led by the CEO themselves, because the companies are much smaller, and then the sales teams report to the CEO, and then they drive the businesses. There is also a lot of companies where a sales leader is hired, and then the promoter of the company expects the sales leader to drive. So one of the biggest I think the difference that I will see what the customers would want to do is see, when I look at my own experiences, I've always seen that there are a lot of customers where we wanted to acquire, we wanted to be part of their vendor ecosystem, but we could never acquire them. And the fundamental gap that I've seen, what I think is missing was, see, if you look at any sales deals that I've been part of, I was fortunate to go from sales meeting. 75% of the sales decision is already done by the time I go to the meeting, and the 25% is what the customer decides during the meeting. But a lot of times, when I talk to the sales teams, what I realize is that there is always a decision maker. And then there is always somebody who can influence the decision. I think this post-COVID situation, or for any any situation which is distressed and we need to do our best, I think the focus should also be going to the influencers who will influence such deals. Because I strongly feel that the users of IT, the users of your services will play a larger role than your actual decision maker. Because, for example, look at a consulting company. A decision maker could be a CFO, who would actually sign the final paper, or do the paperwork for you, or maybe a procurement team, or maybe a vendor management team. But actually, the user is the influencer there. So what I've realized is that a lot of times, my sales team comes back and say, "Hey, I've spoken to the decision maker, but they're not interested in panel." But then I've realized that they're just facilitators for you. And with more and more pressure that's going to come to limit your suppliers, limit your vendors, limit your partners, I think this is the best time for anyone to identify who your influencers are. Because see, influencers are people who believe in data and the competency that you bring in. Whereas the decision makers like a CFO or procurement person would be people who actually manage the perception. So for example, if a data-oriented user is coming and saying, "Hey, I like this partner, I want to bring them on board," the person who's the decision maker goes through the perception that he has at that point in time. But of course, there are a lot of times the deals don't happen, even if you are an influencer, if you convince influencer and still you're not getting go ahead from them. Then I think fundamentally there are problems in terms of the perception itself. Because a lot of companies I've seen, you write 100 mails. I've seen, when I used to be a sales manager, back then about 10, 12 years back, we used to write about 35, 40 emails to different people through LinkedIn, to different connects, and we never get any responses. And then I used to, think about it, and then our experience taught me that, yes, you're offering a service, but the customer do not want it anymore, right? The reason is that their priorities and needs have changed. So what we think is is going to be interesting to a customer may not be interesting anymore to a client, because the customer may not, maybe for example, if I'm part of staffing industry, they moved on to outcome-based models. And say for example, if I'm an outcome-based model provider or consulting provider, maybe they moved on to ODCs and they want suppliers who can actually manage ODCs for them, right? So I think as a salesperson, so I've worked with great CEOs in my career, and I've seen different styles of sales being driven. But I strongly feel this is the time that the sales teams have to be worked with, and we have to work with them every day and try to understand who the influencers are, who the decision makers are, and I think that's how it's going to be the next big change going to come from.
So yeah, it's a good explanation about what the sales team has to do in respect to this pandemic. But of course, I mean, you've been in sales before this, so I want to understand, is there any new tools you started using after this pandemic started? Of course, you'll be using a lot of digital tools in your business, in your company. But now there are a lot of new tools that have come helping people to improve their efficiency. Is there any one or two tools which you think that is making a good impact in your present sales strategies?
Absolutely. I think the company that I'm part of has been in the forefront of driving technology. In fact, we adopted the digital onboarding, paperless onboarding first time ever for any company to do it in India.
So paperless onboarding.
Yes. So from the time that a person is interviewed, selected, and shortlisted, and selected, and then offered. From the time that we offered them till the time the person exited, there is no paper intervention here.
So the offer letter, the signature,
everything is through an app, and that is actually linked to the other verification-based system. So they use their
so this is your in-house tool you created.
This is completely in-house tool, so it uses the other authentication, and then all the forms that you need for your PF and your ESIC, and all of that gets populated. They sign it online, and then I think within 14 minutes is onboarding.
Just 14 minutes for onboarding.
Yes, from end to end. So that's what we've done. Because we are the largest employer in India, so we needed to have some of the best tools. And all of these are built, internally through us. So coming back to your question on sales, yes, we do have multiple tools that tracks sales performances. We have tools that also gives us dashboards, your daily sales calls, what kind of meetings have been done, and what are the next steps that we need to do. So we are completely automated actually, and we are I would say maybe around 13 to 14 tools that I can think of that I use it every day.
Okay. So what my thing is, if you can give like 4 or 5 tools by name, maybe it's a third-party tool. If you can, for new companies, of course you're using certain in-house tools, but there are tools available in the market. If you can give 4 or 5, or just these, like now, Zoom is becoming very popular. Microsoft Team, a lot of people do the Microsoft Team, and Zoom is becoming popular. Likewise, a lot of new tools are. But I want you to suggest 3 to 5 tools for companies in IT staffing. What do you think they can, straight away they can? It can be a SaaS, model. So what is your suggestion?
I think from my standpoint, I think some of the tools that I use are world class, and all of these were built internally, for us. As this discussion is not about promoting any.
I know. Because for my viewers to know, it helps.
I think I will do maybe a separate session on this.
Sure.
Then I think that will help.
We can even discuss about Zoom and the issues and privacy. What people are talking about is really
right.
So we can.
I think in the next session we should do that.
Yeah. So I got it. Now we spoke about for IT consulting companies, then about the staffing. Then you told me about the sales. Okay, now I would say like the pandemic gets over in 3 or 4 months. So a person who wants to go and apply for a job, so his mindset will be totally different. An IT for example, person with 20 years of experience. So what will be a sincere advice? You should go to top companies or a startup, or you will get that I want a person who's already working, but he wants to jump to another organization. I want to know whether it's a good time to jump or be safe. What is your advice on that?
I think that's a great question, because incidentally some of my customers have reached out to me, and then they've been asking such questions. But see, from a candidate standpoint, the one biggest thing is after this pandemic, what we call this as a new normal. I think customers have started accepting this new normal. When I say new normal, one biggest thing that is going to happen is now. See, earlier there used to be a concept called that I am a company based out of Bangalore and I wanted somebody who's in Bangalore.
Yeah.
So that's going to change big time because now anybody can work from anywhere.
Correct.
So if you look at the critical talent, I think companies will now look at hiring people from anywhere in the world, if not anywhere from India. I think coming to offices, every day is not going to be the same.
But sorry to interrupt here, but I found out they're saying in Indian companies, the so-called CEOs, still they feel that work from home doesn't give them 100% efficiency. Is that right?
I think there are a couple of points there. Efficiency, working from home predominantly because some of them are still struggling with the bad connection or poor connectivity.
Yeah, you're right.
And for example, if you wanted to refer to a data, then your data is not available on the cloud all the time. So I think that part is going to change. Companies are going to bring in data to be available, online where you can access it from everywhere. But I think this is a new normal, and companies will be forced to accept it. Okay. And even some of the Indian IT companies, some of the leading companies have agreed that by 2021-22 they wanted to bring almost 75% of their workforce to work from home, and only 1/5, 1/4 can work from offices. So I think that is going to change. So I think this for people who are talented, people who are carrying very unique skills, I think it's a good opportunity for them because the more and more short-term projects are going to come out. More and more opportunities are going to come in those areas, those space, and I think this lockdown and pandemic has prompted a lot of people to acquire new skills. They are doing a lot of upskilling. So I'm sure the skills landscape changing. The opportunities are also going to change.
Good. I mean, basically, I would say in this pandemic, a lot of new businesses, they disrupted this IT staffing consulting industry. I would say last year, it's been happening from the early 2019. But what happened was this COVID-19 came and disrupted the disruptors itself. So it's a surprise for everyone, as you said. Still I feel Indian work from home is still the work culture at home. You can see, you can hear kids talking, you can hear, at the background you can see, as he said, bad connections. Of course, we have a lot of good broadband network, but still we have a lot of issues. So my last question is, how long this IT consulting industry is going to take now to come back to like 6 or 8 months back, or whatever they are last March or how long it's going to take, for the IT consulting and staffing industry?
I think that's another good question. See, I'll tell you what my opinion is, what my view is. See, a lot of consulting startups, as you would refer to, startup or staffing companies or IT consulting companies which are small size, mid size in nature. I think if you look at the global captives in India, okay, which is giving a lot of businesses to the small and the mid-sized companies, including your captive centers that is based out of your Europe or North America. I think I've been speaking to a lot of companies myself, and it depends on how deep and how long they're willing to take you in the relationship. Okay. Say for example, if I'm a partner, if I'm working on some of the top-notch development projects that I'm doing for them, my end customer is going to still take me, through this tough times. Okay. And I'm not seeing. In fact, there are companies which have called me and have asked, "Is everything fine? And will I take care of my employees? Will you do your appraisals on time and things like that?" So I think for a lot of companies which are partners in nature, you'll not even see any impact at all. Yeah. But if you're not part of that relationship and not part of that strategic working relationship with the customer, then you will be treated as one among your other vendors. So you will be part of their discretionary suppliers, which I refer to in my earlier discussion. So you will go through their peaks and troughs in terms of cost pressures and hiring, and that they might take a little bit longer time. But if you're a strategic partner with a large company, and I strongly believe that you will not see an impact at all. And maybe even if you see it, it's going to be for a month or 2 months. Okay. In terms of temporary hiring freezes and stuff like that. But I think your contract, your projects will certainly continue.
Okay. So it's very interesting to hear from Calvin that it's going to affect, but not that much, maybe a month or two, So I feel for the IT staffing, consulting industry is going to get affected, but not to that extent. That's a good thing to hear. And if you have any questions, I've given Calvin's direct email as well as in the description. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to our channel. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
So I would expect we are going to discuss more in the next video.
Absolutely.
So see you soon. My name is Bernard.